I read 10 books in July, but would I actually recommend them? Hi friends and welcome. Okay, some of these were surprising in the best way, and others I'm already trying to forget. Today I'm breaking down everything I read last month, the good, the not so good, and which books I'd actually press into your hands. Oh, and confession time. There was an 11th book that I actually had to DNF at about 20%. So I'm not counting that one as a full read. Still, I'll tell you why I bailed when we get to it. If you've been burned by a meh read lately, or you're just trying to make your next pick count, hopefully this video helps. I read across a bunch of genres and I'm pretty picky, so if something stood out to me, you know it's for a reason. Okay, so the first book that I read in July was Give Me More by Cate. This one follows Drake, who's heading up construction for a new kink club with his best friend Hunter, who asks him while they're on a road trip together with Hunter's wife if Drake will sleep with Hunter's wife while he watches. And if that sounds like a lot, it's because it is. I don't know, I really didn't feel this one. It felt a little odd, too easy, too convenient, and the emotional stakes did not hit for me. I wasn't invested in the trio dynamic, and honestly, I did not like Hunter at all. I do remember rooting for Drake and Isabel, that's Hunter's wife, but even the chemistry there just felt a little more functional than emotional. It's not the worst book I read all month, we'll get to that, but this one is already kind of forgotten. Would I recommend it? No, probably not, unless, like me, you're deep into the Salacious Players series and want to see it through. To my detriment, I am a completist when it comes to series. The next book that I read in July was Promise Me Sunshine by Cara Bastone. This was my second book by this author, and this was a lovely surprise. In it, we follow Lenny, who's grieving the loss of her best friend and barely holding it together when she picks up a temporary babysitting job. Enter Miles, her charge's grumpy uncle, who just so happens to understand grief a little too well. Together, they make a deal. She'll help him bond with his niece, and he'll help her work through the live again list she made with her late friend. This book is gentle and warm and messy in a way that felt very believable. The romance is soft and even awkward at times in a very real life way. And the found family aspect was just so good. I usually side-eye books where healing hinges on a new love interest, but this one struck the right balance. Would I recommend it? Yes, especially if you're in the mood for something that mixes emotional depth and cozy vibes and quiet hope. And into another one from the Salacious Players Club world. Next, I read Mercy by Cate. This one centers on the club's only female owner who discovers a dominant streak after taking a kink quiz and ends up matched with Beau, a character from earlier in the series and her friend's son. Unfortunately, this one also did not work for me. Beau was not likable in the first book, and he did not grow on me in this one. Their chemistry felt forced, the emotional development was lacking, and the story seemed more interested in checking boxes than building a compelling relationship. That said, I wasn't miserable reading it, I just kind of floated through it. Would I recommend it? Not really, unless you're very invested in the world, like I said before. I think this one can be skipped. After that, I read First Time Caller by B.K. Borison. This book, oh no. We follow Aiden, the host of a radio show about love, who has secretly stopped believing in love because of a completely nonsensical reason. And Lucy, a single mom who gets swept up in the viral attention after her daughter calls into the show. That setup absolutely had promise, but the execution was so flat. Their conversations were boring. Their chemistry was non-existent. The one scene that was supposed to be swoon-worthy, total snooze fest. And Aiden, I don't even have words for how annoying he was. I kept waiting for it to get better because of how highly rated this book is. I absolutely should have DNF'd it. This was a tough one to get through. Would I recommend it? Not even a little bit. Read anything else. Next, let's talk about Passion Project by London Sperry. In this one, we follow Bennett, a temp worker grieving her first love, who gets roped into a weekly adventure pact with Henry, the guy she stood up for a first date. Together, they tackle a bunch of try-something-new activities to help her reconnect with her passion for life. It's sweet, it's thoughtful, and I liked the structure, but because I read Promise Me Sunshine earlier in the month, this one felt a little dimmer by comparison. It didn't quite grab me the same way emotionally, and I didn't totally buy the romance. Honestly, I would have been cool if they would have just stayed friends. Would I recommend it? It depends. If you love a gentle rediscovery arc and don't mind quieter romance, it might be worth a try. But it didn't quite land as a favorite for me. Next, I read The Highest Bidder by Sara Cate. This installment follows a piano-playing free spirit who winds up being auctioned off at Salacious Players Club. Ronan Cade, filthy rich, significantly older, and oh yeah, her mom's ex, bids an insane amount of money for a single date. What starts as one night quickly turns into a trip to Paris, a penthouse stay, and something a little more serious and a little more complicated. I liked this one more than the others I read earlier in the month. Thank goodness. The central conflict was easy to predict, but the emotional growth between the characters felt genuine. Our main girl may have been a little naive when it comes to relationships, but I appreciated how they each challenged the other to grow. Despite the over-the-top premise, it managed to hit a few grounded emotional notes. Would I recommend it? Yes. If you're craving a rich man fantasy with real emotional undercurrents, and you can suspend disbelief for a little Paris penthouse escapism. Okay, next is a book on my physical TBR, and that is The Lost Queen by Signe Pike. I'm not gonna keep holding this one up, so I'll pop a little picture up in the corner. Yeah, that one's a bit of a chunker. Set in ancient Scotland during the slow clash between the old ways and the rise of Christianity, this story follows Lingorith, a druid's daughter and sister to the man history will know as Merlin. As she's drawn into political alliances, arranged marriage, and a forbidden romance, she's forced to choose between duty, belief, and love. This started a bit slow for me, especially as we follow Lingorith from childhood, but I'm so glad that I stuck with it. The last third really pulled me in. I won't spoil what happens, but it gave the whole book a kind of payoff I hadn't expected. It straddles this line between historical fiction and almost fantasy, and the atmosphere was strong throughout. Would I recommend it? Yes, especially if you like stories with political intrigue, ancient settings, and slow burn emotional payoff. The next book that I read in the month of July is Spectacular Things by Beck Dorey-Stein. This is a coming-of-age, sister-centered family drama following Mia and Cricket, two talented daughters of a young single mother in a small town in Maine. Mia's the responsible one, Cricket's the star athlete, and their bond is tested as family secrets, ambition, and the past all come to the surface. I loved this one. The storytelling was layered and well-paced. The family dynamics were messy in the best way, and it had the kind of messy emotional pull that sticks with you. It almost overtook All the Colors of the Dark for my top read of the year so far, which says a lot. My only tiny nitpick is that the story starts by showing us a big conflict from the future and then rewinds. So the emotional beats became a little predictable, but even knowing what was coming, it did not ruin the reading experience for me. Would I recommend it? Absolutely, one of the standouts of the year so far. Next, I read my fourth book by this author, and that is Same Time Next Summer by Annabel Monaghan. Sam is engaged to a practical, buttoned-up doctor and planning her wedding until a trip to her family's beach house brings her face to face with her first love, Wyatt. Cue the emotional spiral, the beachy flashbacks, and that classic, "Is this really the life I want?" question. This one hit hard in the vibes department, perfect for summer, but the romance didn't land for me. I'm never a huge fan of characters getting emotionally tangled up while still in serious relationships, and this book leaned all the way into that. There wasn't much real tension or depth between Sam and Wyatt either, which made the payoff feel flat. That said, the atmosphere and nostalgia were on point. Would I recommend it? Maybe. If you're here for a coastal setting and a little emotional pining, it might scratch the itch. But if you're in it for strong character arcs or deeply satisfying romance, you might want to look elsewhere. Next is a book that I mentioned in my short reads video, Books You Can Read in a Day. This was on my physical TBR, and that is The Days of Abandonment by Elena Ferrante. This novel opens up in the aftermath of a woman being left by her husband of 15 years. Her unraveling is immediate and raw. She spirals into rage, bitterness, and emotional chaos, all while trying to raise 2 children and keep her identity intact. So I DNF'd this at 20%. I tabbed a few things kind of towards that point where I gave up on this one, and I wouldn't even feel comfortable reading them aloud for you guys. The main character was just unbearable. There's no other way to say it. Not just messy, but actively vile in her thoughts and actions. I get that it's supposed to be a dark, raw depiction of female rage, but it felt more like a race to the bottom. The spiral was ugly without being insightful, and the tone was less cathartic and more just gross. I wasn't sticking around for the dark comedy or whatever redemption arc might have been waiting at the end. Would I recommend it? Not unless you're really into literary self-destruction, or if you want to feel better about your own coping skills by comparison. Let's move along. The next one I picked up in July is Evenings and Weekends by Oisín McKenna. Set in London during a sticky summer in 2019, this ensemble novel follows a loosely connected group: Maggie, Phil, Ed, and Rosaline. I think I'm pronouncing that right. As they navigate friendship, identity, grief, pregnancy, and the mess of modern relationships, all in the haze of Pride season and city heat. This was slightly better than okay for me. It took a while to get into. There are multiple POVs and not a ton of plot momentum early on. I eventually got invested, but never fully connected to any of the characters. I can see why people are comparing this one to Sally Rooney. It has that modern young people navigating emotions in a messy city energy, but in my opinion, Rooney does it better. The atmosphere was strong, but the story didn't stick. Would I recommend it? Maybe. If you like character-centric, loosely plotted, queer ensemble fiction, this might work for you, but don't go into it expecting big emotional payoff. And that is everything that I read in July. If you made it to this part of the video, thank you so much for spending your time here with me today. I appreciate it so much. Let me know in the comments if you've read any of these, or if you had a standout or a total flop recently. I always love hearing what stuck with you. And something to look forward to, I finally had another 5-star rating. If you saw my mid-year book freakout tag video, you know All the Colors of the Dark was holding on to that top spot, but not anymore. I'll be talking about the new frontrunner in my August wrap-up, so definitely stick around and subscribe if you're curious. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you all again soon in the next video. Bye!